Parshas Vayigash. After the meeting between Yosef and his brothers, and he reveals himself, which is the climax and the thrust of the Parsha for almost all of us. Yosef gives direct instructions as to how to bring Yaakov down to Mitzrayim, and the very last words he tells them are in the pasuk, "Vayishlach es echav, vayelchu vayomar lehem al tirgezu ba'dorech, al tirgezu ba'dorech." There are many mafarshim on this very unique word al tirgezu ba'dorech. Rashi himself has two pshatim. His first pshat is al tisasku bidvar halacha, al tisasku bidvar halacha shlo tirgaz alechem haderech, and which in a simple manner, and it seems to be very balbatish, don't get into a very intense halachic discussion on your way back to Eretz Yisrael, because you may get lost. You'll get so involved in halacha that you will lose your way on the road. There are two parallel, beautiful divrei Torah, one from the Brisker Rav and one from the Apirion, which is Rav Shlomo Gansfried, the famous author of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. They complement each other. We will do the Apirion first, and some of it is repeated in the Brisker Rav's exposition, but I think they work together very, very beautifully. The question is, question number one, if in fact he's warning them not to get lost on the road, how come Yaakov didn't tell them the same thing? Please don't learn halacha on the road, because you have to be very careful when you're traveling. You shouldn't lose your way, or you shouldn't get so involved in a halachic discussion that you don't realize that you're being attacked by others. So the Apirion says, which he brings down, as he mentioned in previous parshios, that Bnei Yaakov realized a tremendous concept in these travels back and forth to Mitzrayim, which is not really mentioned directly in the parsha, and they realized that their father's 22-year absence in Haran was the basis of this punishment of having Yosef having been taken away from him. It's in Parshas Miketz, it's in the Parshas Vayigash, and Yaakov was not Mekayim the mitzvah of Kibbutz for 22 years, so therefore, in the same way, Yosef was taken away from him for 22 years. The problem is, brought down by the Apirion, is the famous principle of Megalgalin Zchus Eidei Zakai V'chov Eidei Chayav. So even though the Apirion says that there was some kind of reckoning, and by the way, we don't have any chushes to how fine this din is, because it was certainly not his fault. He went with the tzivui of his father and mother, and yet it's held against him. Because kechut hasayra, we know that tzaddikim are measured. And we can't understand that. Let us continue to strive to become better and better, even though we know that the level of din also increases simultaneously. Let's keep on going anyway. Now, they knew that the oynish from their father was mishamayim. However, they were the goyreim of this torture, of this punishment. So therefore, they themselves will have to give a din on it, as is brought down clearly in Pirkei Avos, al atvach atfuch v'sof metafayach yitufon, the famous saying of Hillel, when he saw a skull in the water. Those you were killed because you were a killer, and those who killed you will meet the same fate. So therefore, he brings down the shame of a goyen. I can't read the name of it. I think it's the Maris Chais, but I'm not sure. That because of the fact that they were the goyim for this suffering of their father, they themselves will have to be punished mina keneged mida, despite the fact that they did the shlichus v'kodesh baruch hu. But we still say metafayich yitufon, because we say megalden choyv al yedei chayav. So therefore, they also have to be punished, and therefore they were concerned on this avera that was on their hands that they were goyim, paying to their father. Now, once Yosef revealed himself to them, they realized that these 22 years were against those 22 years that Yaakov was away from his father's house with Lavan. However, they realized that the 14 years that he went to learn before that, he was not punished for. He was only 22, not 36. So they came to the stark realization, to a tremendous realization, that Talmud Torah is greater than Kibbutz Av. Now we all know Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, but that was something they learned from their own personal experience. Okay? Therefore, they realized that if they have to find a kapara, and they want to find a way to be mechaper on their avera, it will be absolutely vital for them to learn Torah with an increased level of intensity, even higher than they ever had before, with lahasmid b'Torah, to be mechaper on this avera of Kibbutz Av, which was brought on their hands. So therefore, they said, we've got to start learning non-stop. Now we got to go traveling back to Eretz Yisrael. We're going to have to learn on the way as well. Yosef said, no, don't do that. Al tirguzu badorach. Don't learn Dvar Halacha on the way, because I'm giving you a very important tzivoy, advice, not a tzivoy, advice, that the danger of the road supersedes that which you're trying to do to be mechaper and you're there learning Halacha more intensively. That's the vart, which is a really fascinating vart from the Apirion. It's a wonderful sefer, very small little sefer, but tremendously deep. Now we'll go to the Brisker Rav. Some of the things which I just told you will be repeated, worth hearing again. He brings out Rashi, and this Rashi happens to have a source, and he brings out from Masechta Tainis, Daf Yud Amud Aleph. It says, Latis kasku b'dvar halacha, shalatirgas aleichem hadera, that the road should not be a danger to you, that the road should not you should not get lost. Now, he brings down the Brisker Rav, a Gemara. That Gemara says, "Am Rabbi Loi, Shnei Tamid Chachamim Shemhalkim Baderech Ve'im B'neim B'divrei Torah Riyun Lisarif." If you have two Tamid Chachamim who are walking on the road and they don't learn in Torah, they don't talk in Torah, they have to be destroyed, they have to be punished, they have to die. So the question is, that's in direct contradiction to what Yosef was just telling them. And Rabbi Eloi on the spot gives an answer. That's what we're talking about a limud rogil. That's when you have a certain set seder, and you're learning the way you always have been learning. Here, Yosef was telling them, do not increase your learning, be'iyon. Why? Because through this increased learning of be'iyon, then you're going to get into trouble, you're going to lose the way. Because you're putting in even more kaiches into your learning. You're going to forget about where you are, you're going to forget about everything, and you will get yourselves into trouble. Now, he brings an additional chabvart, which I thought was very worthwhile and important to transmit to you as well. When Yosef revealed himself earlier in the parsha, which we've mentioned only briefly, he says, "Ani Yosef Odav Yichai." What happened with the brothers? We all know what it says. They were so astounded, they were so overwhelmed that they were struck dumb. They were speechless. His brothers could not answer him. Medrash Tanchuma says, when Yosef said, "Ani Yosef," they actually either fainted, or the Medrash says, "Porchan Ishmasan." They actually dropped dead. And Hashem did a nace and gave him Tchias HaMesim. We know there's a Medrash that by Akedas Yitzchak, Yitzchak also died. It doesn't say that in the Pasuk. And it was Tchias HaMesim, and in fact he made a bracha on Machai HaMesim. So here Medrash says the same thing about Ani Yosef. This is a very dramatic Medrash, that they actually had died, and Hashem had to give them back the neshamas through an ace. Now, this Ani Yosef was so astounding to them. They were coming to Mitzrayim on the small chance that they might possibly find in this tremendously vast country Yosef. And if in fact they do find him, which was so unlikely, he would be an Eved Avadim. He would be some evidence, some place in a winkle, in a corner, in some who knows where. Now they see he's the Maishal of Mitzrayim, and not only that, he is the one who's been giving them all of this vikuach from the moment that they got there, which had never entered their minds that this is Yosef. So this was so astonishing, so overwhelming, so incredible that Nivhalu Mipanav. Then the Brisker Rav says his interesting insight. Let's say this happened to us. If we had such an astounding revelation, some turnabout, which was so, knocks out all of our preconceived notions in one shot, it would take us a while to assimilate that. It would take us a while to get that under our belts. However, who are we talking about? We're talking about Shiftei Ka. As soon as they came to, they said, we've got to sit down and learn better. They didn't sit and ploiter on it. They didn't sit and worry about it. They didn't sit and wonder about this amazing turn of events and sit there contemplating on it for hours or days or weeks. We got to sit down and learn, and we got to learn hard, because that's our tafkid right now. We've got to sit and learn Torah with even greater diligence in order that we should be able to be mechaper on our averos. Therefore, Yosef had to tell them, Al tirgazu badorach. Yes, you can do that, but don't do it on the road, because that would be dangerous. That would not be in your best interest, and I don't want you to do that. Let's think about that. We face a lot of difficulties in all of our lives, bigger ones and littler ones. Let us continue to strive to work in what Hashem wants us to do. If we have a difficulty or a challenge, let us face it by doing what Hashem wants us to do, doing Torah mitzvahs, and that's chus. We will not have any blockages in our paths. We will not have any dangers attacking us and surrounding us. It will be a chus for all of Klal Yisrael, and for our mishpachas, and for our children, our grandchildren, and for the Dor Doros. Good Shabbos.